y'all, my name is Keyla and welcome to my channel. Thank y'all so much for joining me. I'm super excited because this has been a long time coming. Like, I've been trying to make a YouTube channel for the longest and we're finally here. So, super quick introduction before we hop into the video. Like I said, my name is Keyla, I'm from Louisiana, and I'd like to consider myself a multifaceted person with several different interests. So I figured my channel should reflect that. So on here we're going to be talking about everything from afros to anime, feminism to friendships, style to sci-fi, and everything in between. So I hope you guys decide to stick around and just stay on this ride with me. So let's just go ahead and hop right into this first video. And as you can see by the title, I guess some people would consider this to be a bit controversial for like a first video, but I wouldn't be me if I wasn't talking about some black girl intellectual type stuff. But really quick, a disclaimer, I am not an expert on this topic or any topic that I'm going to be talking about, honestly, and I don't claim to be. I'm simply someone who's passionate about learning more about black feminism, and I want to be able to share what I've learned with other people to hopefully inspire them to continue to educate themselves and learn more about these topics so that they can become better allies to black women and to all marginalized people in general. So in this video, I'm going to be doing my best to briefly break down different terminology and concepts related to black feminism, black feminist rhetoric, whatever you want to call it, and break down the differences between the marginalization and social injustices that black women face versus that of other marginalized groups. So for example, a lot of the injustices and marginalization that black women face is very different from that of white women or black men, so on and so forth. I'll also be citing my sources like the good little college graduate that I am. And I'm just going to be listing everything in the order that I mentioned it in the description box below, so make sure you check that out. All right, let's get started. Intersectionality is a term coined by civil rights and race scholar and professor Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, and it's the idea that people experience discrimination differently depending on their overlapping identities. Crenshaw states, individuals have individual identities that intersect in ways that impact how they are viewed, understood, and treated. Black women are both black and women. So where white women will face discrimination based on sex and black men will face discrimination based on race, black women face discrimination at the intersections of both race and sex. In her TED Talk, The Urgency of Intersectionality, Crenshaw begins by asking the audience to stand and only remain standing if they know the names of the people she will call out. She calls out the names of black men murdered by police, and majority of the audience remains standing. It isn't until she starts calling out the names of black women murdered by police that several members of the audience sit. At the end of this portion, only a couple of people in the audience are left standing. Crenshaw goes on to explain that despite the different types of audience that she's done this exercise with, everywhere awareness of the level of police violence that black women experience is exceedingly low. Now, intersectionality is a concept that is prevalent in every facet of life. Another example of this could be something like wage gaps. According to an article at the Pew Research Center, college-educated black men make roughly 80% the hourly wage of college-educated white men. College-educated white women also make roughly 80% the hourly wage of college-educated white men. Now here's where discrimination based on race and discrimination based on sex intersect. College-educated black women make roughly 70% the hourly wage of college-educated white men. In Angela Davis's book, Women, Race, and Class, she discusses how punishments inflicted on enslaved black women exceeded in intensity the punishment suffered by their men. For women were not only whipped and mutilated, they were also raped. Now that we have a basic understanding of intersectionality and how it works, let's look at how we, people who are oppressed, can also be privileged. I'll use myself as an example. As previously stated, as a black woman, my race and sex intersect in terms of oppression. However, I am not the most oppressed person on the face of the earth, and I actually possess a lot of privilege, specifically in this country. I'm college educated. The state of Louisiana would consider me as a single person to be lower middle class. I'm cisgendered, I'm heterosexual, and I'm able-bodied. Considering all of this, it's safe to say that the most oppressed and marginalized people are those who are non-college educated. They are financially working class or poor, they're black or POC, they're trans, they're disabled, so on and so forth. Crenshaw states that the point of intersectionality is to make room for more advocacy and remedial practices to create a more egalitarian system. And I believe we are unable to do that if we don't acknowledge those who experience several different types of injustices, even more so than ourselves. In her TED Talk, Crenshaw states that we have to be willing to bear witness to the painful realities that we would rather not confront, the everyday violence and humiliation that many Black women have had to face, Black women across color, age, gender expression, sexuality, and ability. So now that we understand a bit more about intersectionality and the ways in which we ourselves are both oppressed and privileged, let's move on to the concept of misogynoir, which is based in how race and sex intersect. What is misogynoir and anti-Blackness? Feminist scholar, activist, and writer Dr. Moya Bailey coined this term. Moya defines it as the ways anti-Black and misogynistic representation shape broader ideas about Black women, particularly in visual culture and digital spaces. The term combines the terms misogyny, which is basically the systemic and societal discrimination towards women for simply being women in a patriarchal society, and the term noir, which is French for Black. Now, misogynoir shows how sexism and racism manifest in Black women's lives to create intersecting forms of oppression. You see what I did there? I introduced you to intersectionality. Now I'm using it to introduce you to misogynoir because everything is connected. Now, in an interview with newamerica.org, Dr. Bailey discussed how misogynoir has affected Black women in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. She talks about the story of Dr. Susan Moore, a Black woman physician who was experiencing COVID symptoms, but she wasn't believed by any of the doctors in charge of her care. She ended up dying from COVID. There's this real connection between how Black women are perceived in society and their treatment and care within medicine, even when they are medical doctors themselves. Now, let's be clear, this oppression isn't just because of race or sex, because non-white women are not affected by misogynoir, as misogynoir is a specific type of oppression that only Black women face. Why is that? Well, remember, it's defined by Dr. Bailey as ways in which misogynistic and anti-Black representation shape ideas about Black women. So what's anti-Blackness? Anti-Blackness is behaviors, attitudes, and practices of people and institutions that work to dehumanize Black people in order to maintain white supremacy. So we've seen anti-Blackness even in our own community as well as other POC communities. And that's actually part of the reason why many Black people don't consider themselves POC anymore, but we're not going to get into all that. So we've been introduced to intersectionality, we've learned more about misogynoir and anti-Blackness. So let's go ahead and learn about how these three things interact and show up in other forms of injustice. What is adultification bias and how does it affect Black girls? Adultification or adultification bias is the perception that Black girls are less innocent and more adult-like than their white peers of the same age. A study done by the Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality, spearheaded by Jamila J. Blake, Rebecca Epstein, and Thalia Gonzalez, shows that compared to white girls of the same age, survey participants perceived that Black girls needed less nurturing, Black girls needed less protection, Black girls needed to be supported less, Black girls needed to be comforted less, Black girls are more independent, Black girls know more about adult topics, and Black girls know more about sex. Have you ever heard a Black girl be referred to as fast by adults because an adult male was interested in her? Was that Black girl you or someone you know? If so, you've experienced adultification bias. According to the Georgetown study, Black girls are 3 times more likely than white girls to be disciplined for disruptive behavior. That's adultification bias. So why do black girls experience adultification bias but not white girls? Because of intersectionality, anti-blackness, and misogynoir. Adultification bias is harmful to black girls in several ways. It strips them of their youth and their innocence. It opens the door for neglect and abuse. Do you want a recent example? Go on social media and look up the R. Kelly trials and see just how many people were placing the blame on teenage black girls for the actions of a grown man assaulting them. I heard the term racial ungendering when a TikTok video by MILFs Love Jay went viral. Basically, Jay and the user he stitched his video with were comparing being black to homosexuality. After continuing to see discussions on Twitter stating the two creators got close to understanding the concept of racial ungendering, I decided to do a little research of my own. Now, out of all of the concepts and terms that I spoke about in this video, this concept is the one that I understand the least, but I figured it'd be a good idea to introduce you all to it so we can learn about it together. From what I've gathered through some research, racial ungendering is a way to dehumanize one due to their race by implying their race makes them less of their perceived gender than their white counterparts. The article Gynecology and the Ungendering of Black Women discusses how Dr. J. Marion Sims, the father of gynecology, experimented on enslaved black women. Sims' experimentation required bodies that were removed from their humanness, who could be operated on without analgesic or painkillers, and who had no other choice than to be objects. In sum, the founding of the science of women's health relied on the idea that some women were not women. They were less than. Sims, and thus gynecology, ungendered black women by regarding them as less woman than their white counterparts. And of course, the concept of racial ungendering goes back to what? Anti-blackness, misogynoir, and intersectionality. Well, now that we've learned the basics of each of these terms and this rhetoric, we can do several things. We can look at our own lives and see where we've been affected by misogynoir, anti-blackness, adultification bias, and racial ungendering. We can also look at ways in which we might be privileged as opposed to others through the lens of intersectionality. But more importantly, we should continue to expand on these topics. We should continue to learn more about these concepts and how we can utilize this newfound knowledge to alter society and its negative views and treatment of not just black women, but all of those who are oppressed. To reiterate what Kimberly Crenshaw said, we have to bear witness to these painful realities, and we have to make room for more advocacy and remedial practices to create a more egalitarian system. I hope this video was an informative and helpful resource to you, and I hope you continue on with your research. All sources are going to be listed in the description box in the order that they were spoken about in. So feel free to leave your thoughts and additions to this information in the comments. And if you didn't like or you didn't agree with my interpretations of this information, use this as an opportunity to make something better. Also remember to be kind in the comment section because I will delete any rude or nasty comments. And just thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and keep an eye out for my next video. I'm thinking we should probably lighten up the mood with some Marvel superhero content. Y'all know the new Spider-Man movie's coming up, so I feel like I need to, give y'all a little taste of that nerdy stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.